industry. We're excited not only because what we do is because where we see the future going. My good friend Craig Livingston, and I mentioned that I grew up in Mandeville. Craig and I are both, I tell people, from Mandeville, even though I'm from Tarpon Bay, Luther. But we got our formative years in understanding the business. You think about it, you would think two island boys coming to the US would find smaller things to do. Except when you grow up in the Caribbean, there's no limitations to what can be done, and that's where we grew up. Craig decided on a project I worked on for probably 10 years trying to get it done. Craig decided to build a Marriott Renaissance, not just a hotel, but residence in Harlem, New York. He attached it to the famous Apollo Club, the old Victoria Theater site, and that's only the start. But he had a very, very great career in the financial business. And Craig, your journey, your vision, what makes you, or what made you want to take on a project like the Marriott in Harlem?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Andy, maybe I'm just a glutton for punishment.
Oh, okay.
Well, that project in particular was the longstanding aspiration of luminaries in Harlem like Charlie Rangel, Percy Sutton, Basil Patterson, these giants in the political world. And their idea was to have an international tourist destination in Harlem that would invite the world in, allow them to stay in the community for days or weeks, and to spend money in the community. It was meant to be an economic engine and jobs generator. Unfortunately, they conceived that in the 80s. It wasn't done in the 80s or in the 90s or in the 2000s or the 2010s, but it was awarded to a developer at a point in time before the financial downturn who couldn't complete the project. And I had left investment banking. I thought I had a really good idea of how to get that project done. And I approached the developer, we made a deal. We renegotiated the transaction with the state and the government and went off to the races. And my former employer, Goldman Sachs, happened to be our lender and investor going forward to get the deal done.
You know, he said something interesting. He approached the developer and they made a deal. When we look at deals in the Caribbean, the difficulty that we have as investors is approaching local developers, having them understand how that deal should be constructed. I worked on that deal, like I said, many years, and Charlie Rangel, God bless him, was instrumental. But Steve Williams had this deal. I've had a number of brands. I had ISG, I don't want to call all the brands names, but I have a bunch of brands there. And I remember one day doing a town hall meeting. In private business, you want to get the deal done. And we had a town hall meeting, and Charlie Rangel was there, and I said there were people getting up, and some opposed the project, some said we were outsiders. And I said to Congressman Rangel, can we just throw them out of the building? He said, Andy, we can't do this, not the Caribbean. This is a public-private process. So the Craig's vision, he didn't just stop there. I was in New York a couple of weeks ago, and he said, we're going to build a hotel in Birmingham. He just won a deal to do another couple hundred apartments, condos in Riviera Beach. But Craig, from Mandeville, when I lived in Mandeville as a schoolboy, on the weekends, we would sit on the hill, and my roommate and I would say, the red car is yours, and the blue car is yours. And my roommate, guys, is the current, my roommate then in high school is now the premier of the Turks and Caicos. And I always tell him the joke, you know, the red car is yours, the blue car is mine. How did you get a desire, instead of being a glutton for punishment, that you have this vision, do all this stuff?
Well, when you hear the minister speak from Jamaica, you understand that the Caribbean mindset is everything is possible. And having a vision, the fortitude to execute the vision, understanding of where you need help, what obstacles have to be moved, who to enlist in executing your vision is super important. And I just think the Caribbean mindset is one that doesn't really think about limitations. really think about the possibilities. And, you know, when you look at what Jamaica has done in reducing the debt, growing the economy, growing tourism, reducing crime, it gives you an idea of the big, audacious goals that you can set for yourself and achieve. So when it comes to real estate development, I've always had a mind for business. My parents are entrepreneurs. And frankly, I've always thought, well, if that person from that community can do it, so can we, so can I. And when you look around the country, I think some of the best emerging markets in the world are right here at home, right? We have very high GDP in America relative to the rest of the world. You know, when you talk about the American economy and the possibilities, every state in America, every single state in America has a higher GDP than Great Britain. Every state in America has a higher GDP than France. 47 out of 50 states in America have a higher GDP than Canada. There's a tremendous, tremendous amount of financial and economic possibility here in America. And understanding that, particularly how to unlock it in communities that have been underinvested in, have been passed over for the wrong reasons, have been redlined, considered to be uninvestable, I just think creates a tremendous opportunity for us.
So nothing we should be shy about. What about creating relationships? Do they help when you talk about elected officials, you talk about bankers, you mentioned Goldman Sachs? Are those relationships important, and does integrity play any part in those relationships?
Andy, the relationships are crucial, right? What we do when you engage in a public-private partnership is we choose to venture with government. And government wants to invest for an outcome. They want to transition a blighted site to some productive use. They want to transform a community. They want to create a jobs bank for their constituents. A whole bunch of different things, right? And I'm a capitalist. I'm happy to invest with them, but I'm in it for financial return. But the two can meet together, and we can joint venture and produce an outcome that respects both objectives and delivers on both outcomes. So those relationships with not only elected officials are super important. The relationships with the people who run agencies, because the elected officials are well-intended, they'll pass a statute or a law or green light something, but it's up to the folks in those agencies to execute it. So elected officials are super important. The heads of the agencies are super important. Even the mid-level management at these agencies are very important, because those will be the people who create the obstacles. Additionally, your financial partners are as important. Having the faith and conviction from well-heeled Fortune 500 financial institutions matters, right? And being able to deliver on the investment objectives, return capital successfully is what works. We're able to grow our investment in a capital base in Georgia, in Atlanta, Georgia, because we did well with the Victoria Theater. And that entire development, we repaid Goldman Sachs $130 million. They were happy to come to Atlanta with me and venture in another project where, you know, we've taken $90 million of capital risk. And we'll continue to grow the relationship and migrate it to different markets and geographies as well.
You know, you talk about relationships, and I got a buddy that works at Bahamas there called Wilfred Mullins. I think that's his last name. Wilfred, Angela Musgrove, Phyllis, Felicia Woods. The relationship I've developed with them, it's one that when we have this shared ideas and shared visions, hey guys, let's do it. And so I consider them really partners, just as I consider Ruth Gardner, University of Bahamas partners. But who inspired you? Who mentored you? Talk a little bit about those people.
Oh, wow. That's a very long list, right? When people say I stand on the shoulders of giants, I really do. As a young man, I can remember, remember Jet Magazine, Ebony Magazine?
Yes, yes.
Thinking about Johnny Johnson and Earl Graves, and these people were titans to me. Doug Llewellyn, who bought a Pepsi Cola bottling plant,
I remember
was
that.
a giant. When I read the autobiography of Reginald Lewis, Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun? It was a game changer for me because it made real the path of someone who had big dreams like I do and how to get it done, right? I recommend that book to every single person. Every time I give a speech, I ask young people to read the book because it lays out Reginald Lewis's autobiography, which was amazing. This man got into Harvard Law School without ever taking the LSAT or applying. You know, he just simply got into a summer program, took classes, and they enrolled him. But he was incredibly driven and undeterred in his goals. And so folks like that, but there are people who were my direct mentors. There's a gentleman named Philip Morrow, who is deceased now, but he was a person who was a community development advocate. He believed in community development from the community side. He did it because he was in it to help people, to improve lives, and that required him to address real estate as well. And this is a man who, without trying, died with a very nice, comfortable wealth, without trying to become wealthy, because he was just doing good for the community. And so learning from people who had come before me and paying strict attention. So I'll just tell you, in the case of Phil Morrow, when I left investment banking, I hung a shingle and I thought I'd do advisory work, capital raising, and asset management. Absolutely no one hired me for advice. No one gave me any capital to manage, but folks would say, hey, you used to work at Goldman Sachs, can you raise me some money? So I would raise money for people, and they were real estate developers. Philip Morrow was a real estate developer I raised money for, and I remember being in the closing. I had arranged all the financing, did the closing documents, and there I was on this long list of sheets. There was me and this little fee. And I remember looking around the table and saying, well, if I can bring the capital, I'm a smart guy, I have a good education, a good professional background, I want to be on that side of the table. So after we closed the deal, collected by fee, and then I worked for him for free for 2 years so I could learn the craft of real estate development.
So you invested in yourself.
I invested in myself. I worked for him for free for 2 years. People will approach me sometimes and say, hey, can I get a job with you so I can learn? And I say, so we want me to pay you to learn? If you go to Columbia University, you go to Harvard University, you pay them to learn. My firm does not function that way, but the point is, everyone who's interested in the business has access to people who have come before them, who have intellectual capital that you can acquire. You simply need to bring something to the table, connect yourself to the effort, connect yourself to the platform, and learn.
Yeah, it's interesting when you say people that want to come, they want to get paid. And when we look at successful people, think about what you said about Reginald Lewis. Got into Harvard, not Harvard, Harvard, right?
Yes, Harvard.
It's, I thought you had to have good grades. I couldn't get good grades to get there. But, you know, do you think there's still opportunities in terms of the current climate for people like you and I to succeed and be successful and do deals?
100%. I think, again, the best emerging markets globally are right here in America. They're usually in Black and brown neighborhoods. When you look at the country, and you look at any city, any urban environment, any dense city, most of them have Black mayors. Atlanta, LA, Chicago, New York just did, but we have a different guy now. But Chicago, it repeats itself over and over and over again. There is access, and all these folks understand that they need to do things to improve the fabric of life for their constituents, and they're well-meaning and well-intentioned. I believe the opportunity set has never been better, because the hardest thing to do is to get the political and governmental alignment supporting your project. It's there. It's there now. And if you can connect that with the financial resources and a good development plan, I think there's plenty of opportunity.
So that brings me to my question about public-private partnership, because they were critical in your deal in New York. You just won another deal in Riviera Beach. We spend a lot of time talking to elected officials because in urban markets where the tremendous growth is, you're right. There's folks that we have some commonality with. Many of them look like us, and many of them have a desire to change the fabric. Public-private partnership, is that another great avenue for us?
So we just had a panel on that next door, and I think Evans may still be here, but that's a brother who shares my pain. A public-private partnership is a great opportunity if there is support from the top,
Right.
because there's often bureaucratic policy that is implemented by the staff of agencies that works in contravention to the objectives of the deal. But I think it is a tremendous opportunity set. I would not encourage anyone to venture into a public-private partnership as their first deal. I would say you should do that with a seasoned developer or seasoned partner who's gone through the process before, understands the pitfalls, understands what can go wrong, has the ability to create mitigants against those issues, and also has a strong balance sheet, because when things go wrong, takes longer, you need more capital, right? You need more resources to execute and get to the finish line.
You know, if I was doing a deal in Jamaica, I'll call Delano. If I wanted finance, I'll call Neil Freeman.
Right.
If I wanted a good attorney, I'll call Mitch Miller. I mean, it reminded me though, do you find that having partners to making sure they're aligned, every so often we run into deals where they're so difficult to do, why not just give up and go home?
Well, I think you bring up a good point, Andy. There has to be a lot of tight underwriting that goes into a deal from the beginning, because there are things that are going to go. Factor in a downside case of what could potentially go wrong, and make sure you've resourced against it in case it does happen. One of the good things about public-private partnerships, and we've seen this, if you start a project like I did with the Victoria, and then something happens that no one ever thought could happen. You have a global pandemic. So imagine building a hotel when no one's traveling in a brand new market that is relatively unproven for that level of hotel investment. Because we had good relationships with the government and good relationships with our capital partners, we were able to pivot, and we were able to get through the issues, extend our time, allocate more capital, and get the project built.
So relationships are critical there.
Super duper critical, very critical.
You
So
live
is
in
balance sheet and capital.
You live in New York City, but you came all the way across country to secure a deal in Riviera Beach and Palm Beach County. How'd you do that?
Well, so we're operating in 10 different states now. And the reason why is what I said before. We truly believe the best investment opportunities and the best emerging markets are right here at home. We've been in Atlanta. We've been in Birmingham, Alabama, right? We've been in Indianapolis, Indiana, Newark, New Jersey, all over New York City. We're finding opportunities to bring our skill set, our resources, our partners, and our overall platform to bear and succeed. We underwrite well. We understand the risks that we're taking. We understand the problem that we're solving for. And I'm telling you right now, there are 111,000 developers in the country today. All but 1,000 of them are white, right? And these are in Black and brown communities where this opportunity set exists. So I encourage folks to think about, and as Andy said, getting your Mitch, right? Getting your Neil, getting all your people together, getting your entire team together, and exploit opportunities in different markets. Not every project has to be a $200 million project. When you start and you're doing a $10, $15 million project, that's great. It's the same exact skill set. as doing a $200 million project, but you can really lower the risk profile, but you're learning this and honing the same exact skill set.
Does it matter though what time you take that call? Are you too busy, or you're not going to do business on Saturday or Sunday or Tuesday? Does it matter? I see a lot of people saying, I'm not available on Monday. I'm not available on Sunday. Does that change the dynamics of the folks you want to do business with, or is that something you do?
So work-life balance is a myth. There is no bad time to do business, right? If I said to someone in this room, hey, do you want to make $2 million, but you got to do it at 1 o'clock this morning? By show of hands, who's not going to be up at 1 o'clock in the morning making $2 million, right? Every single person in here is going to do that. And having partners who are that committed to their success because you're sharing success, having folks who are as committed to that objective as you are is super important. Culture matters, right? Work culture matters. Intensity matters. Dedication matters. Your lender, when they're going to say, we're going to take, $100 million of risk with you, they know that I'm picking up the phone, right? And it doesn't matter if it's 7 o'clock in the morning or 11 o'clock at night. If we need to talk about something, we're talking.
Good. That means those folks that I call them at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, I send an email at 2 a.m. in the morning. We worked on a deal, Mitch. Mitch is in L.A. The other partner, Irvin, where's Irvin? Irvin is in Florida. IHG is in Atlanta. And we were calling to try to close the deal in the last quarter. And I said to Mitch, how far are we apart? Mitch on the phone hesitated. He said, we're almost there. So what does that mean, Mitch? And I said to the guy at IHG, you know what? You want to do this deal? Here's what I need. If you don't want to do the deal, just tell me now and we'll hang up and go back to bed.
Right.
He said, give me 5 minutes. Put us on hold. He came back. We got just about everything we wanted.
Right. And
that was a Sunday night, if I remember correctly, Mitch. But how do you say to people that you got to put in the work? The person you said earlier that said, hire me and train me, how do you get them to understand to put in the work if they want to be successful?
Is Kendra Plummer here?
A good example. Is she?
She's a perfect example.
Oh, you're right. She started off with us as a student.
That's
and
right.
Today, what is she doing?
Today she owns and she's developing hotels.
Wow.
Right? But the point is, no one here is inventing fire. There's no rocket science in development. It's intensity, it's fortitude, it's dedication, it's perseverance. It's understanding the objective you're trying to reach, where you're going to fall short, and you need to bolster yourself with an attorney, a financier, a consultant, an architect, or whatever it is, and being dedicated to it. Right? I don't want to make it sound like it's just positive thinking. It's hard work.
It is.
Right? But it's dedication. But we're not reinventing the wheel.
You're right. I'm probably a big risk taker. My wife always, like your wife, Stanley, saying when you bought those 2 golf courses, Cheryl would say, why the devil is he doing that? Well, my wife, will that work? We started a pre-clearance center, and my wife said, for the Bahamas one day, and my wife said, will it work? And we ran it for 17 months during Hurricane Dorian. With risk comes great reward. Why are people so adverse to taking risk? Is it that they're not doing the work that is necessary? Or like somebody told me when I said I'm going to start a group to buy and own hotels, and somebody said to me, black people don't own hotels. Right. And I said, wow, nobody ever told me that before. But would they do the hard work if they knew it was at the end of the rainbow?
I think people would. But Andy, to your question, people have to know how to take risk, right? Jumping out of an airplane is risky. But if you know how to put on a parachute, you know how to take the risk, right? And when you're developing assets, you're engaging in a hockey stick. You're going to borrow a lot of capital. You're going to go negative for a period of time. while you're executing your business plan. Eventually, you're going to start to create revenue, and your hockey stick's going to go up way past the origin, and you're in the land of profitability. But it takes skill set and know-how to understand how to do it, right? If you are developing a project, construction is a big risk, right?
Cost keeps going up.
But there's mitigants that you can employ to help protect your costs. You can buy out contracts ahead of time. You could get what's called a guaranteed maximum price contract, where you offlay the risk to the contractor. You can make that contractor provide a payment and performance bond from a surety, so that if he dies in a plane crash or takes all your money and goes to Turks and Caicos or whatever it is, you can call that.
Turks and Caicos.
You can call that surety company. Notice I didn't say Jamaica. You can call that. You could call that bond and have that surety company step in and finish the job, regardless of cost. Now it's a little bit. It's controversial. It takes time. There's litigation, but that's how you mitigate your risk in some respects, and you can do that with many different of the risk items that are involved in the equation.
I'm going to try and wrap this up, but if you were giving advice to young people, old people, middle-aged people, brands, Caribbean governments, and by the way, are we getting, when I say we as folks from the diaspora, getting opportunities to go back home and invest? I'm from the Bahamas, obviously, but I'm also from Jamaica. But are you finding it difficult to go home and do deals? Because you and I talked about a project in Kingston, building some affordable.
Well, I think the risks are different, right? And like I said, you have to know how to take risks. I understand very well how to take risks here. And in the Caribbean, I would not go into my first project by myself.
Right.
I'm going to partner with someone who's been successful in that market. I'm going to learn the pitfalls of that market. I'm going to understand how or what can go wrong in construction, right? How long it takes to actually get a project built, operational, stabilized, because it's different. There's a different regulatory environment in that new location. I may think it takes 2 months to get a permit and maybe 6 months. There's a whole bunch of things that could go wrong. I don't want to learn on my dime. I'd rather learn from someone who's already established and understand the ropes, the local ropes in that respective market.
Well, I'm going to wrap up, but I want you to tell me what you see. If you were looking in a crystal ball 10 years from now, what do you see the future, not only for this industry, but the future for you going? And I know that we have a lot of projects, and also I won't forget the one thing you talked about, and you should mention this. How do we collectively build an investment fund? You and I have had this discussion, and it's been a pain point for us. How do we put that investment fund together so that we can do and make some more change agents happen?
Well, so I think the future is very bright because, Andy, you've been doing NABHOOD for how long?
30 years.
30 years. Look at this room. Every single year I come, there are more people, more interest. I see more new faces. I see young people. You're intentional about involving students. And it's efforts like that that matter. And it's the reason why I believe the future is so bright, because we are cultivating a path for young people and other people who are interested to get into the industry. You have the alignment of the brands. You have financiers. You have operating partners. You have management companies. And you've done a tremendous amount of good in this industry to bring in folks and to make it more diverse. And those types of efforts are what matter.
Thank you.
So I do. But I think the landscape remains what it is, and there's a tremendous amount of opportunity. So the more we forge alliances and alignment with each other around executing on development opportunities, the better. But you bring up capital. Capital is the operative limiter in this business. You can have all the intellectual capital, the know-how, but it takes the financial capital to execute. Real estate development is a capital intensive business. Operative word being capital. And when you look at the state of affairs in America, the Black GDP is $3.5 trillion. $3.5 trillion.
It's a lot of money.
That's probably the 5th or 6th largest economy in the world by itself. Finding ways to be cohesive, invest together, to partner together is, I think, our next big achievement, right? If we can do that, I think we'll create opportunities for decades and decades to come.
Good point, but do you think, I still know, and I have this even after 30 years, we go some places and we say we're here to develop or invest, or they look at us and say, can you guys really do it? There's Dion Curry. Dion Curry is with a professional athlete, and a couple of months ago, we had about 500 professional athletes, both retired. We've gone to several different, not in many countries, but people honestly don't think that we can do the sort of stuff. And I remember not getting depressed about it, but saying, you know, why don't I just go to Miami as we're doing with the Marriott AC? It's easy to build it there. Do you think we're going to get a breakthrough in the Caribbean that guys that look like you and I can go there and still do business?
Yeah, I do. I think.
Well, Delano's now going to be in charge, and one day he'll probably be prime minister. So I'm going to cultivate that relationship.
You know, when he was speaking, I was thinking the same thing.
I know. I looked at it. Yeah, I saw the prime minister's status there. Tracy, you don't think you'd make a good prime minister? We're going to have our prime minister here tomorrow night speaking, and your consul general is going to do some greetings. But, you know, is that going to change, you think?
The capital formation is the problem.
Capital formation.
Capital formation is the problem. You know, I know Don was here yesterday. I don't know if he spoke about this, but there's probably, you know, 69, 70 trillion dollars of venture capital and private equity assets in this country. All but, you know, there's probably 1.3% of that that's managed by minorities and women.
Go to Reese.
Yeah, the balance of that is managed by, it's concentrated in hands that have traditionally, I think, denied access, right? Controlled by white men who are doing business with each other. They're doing the same old thing they've always done. It's risky to do something new and different. When you look at, for instance, the New York City pension funds, NYSER system, you have $280 billion of capital. That's capital that's contributed by firemen, teachers, municipal workers, policemen. 70% of the people contributing capital into NYSERS are Black and brown. But what percentage of that capital goes to Black and brown businessmen to invest in?
Yeah,
it's paltry.
It's
paltry. You're talking about single-digit percentages. And so until we fix that, because you need institutional capital and access to institutional capital to bring to Jamaica, to bring to Turks and Caicos, to bring to the Bahamas in order to do that next wave of development that you're talking about, Andy.
Yeah, when Joe was commissioned, they did something interesting, being creative with bond. I think they had the Western, the owner was going to take the insurance money and run, which we have a lot of times in the Caribbean. But governments got creative, and I believe they financed that with bonds and backstop it with room taxes to service the debt, which is what a lot of folks do here in the U.S. So I just think we got to get more creative.
Yeah, I think we have to get more people on the boards of these pension funds. We have to have a mindset amongst the pensioners who are contributing to want to see more investment made in their communities using their money by people who look like them.
Any last word before we close?
Yeah, Andy, I want to thank you. I think you've done an amazing job perennially in creating community around hotels, investment, doing it in an inclusive way. You really created a marketplace that I've seen people flourish. Talk about Kendra Plummer. I remember where she was 5, 6 years ago. Now she's on stage, she's giving advice, she's doing deals. There's a lot of folks like that. And every year I come and I meet more and more people who are getting into the industry. So I want to encourage you to continue this. I want to thank everyone for attending. We're going to get there together, right? We're our best plan.
Well, I have my daughter is here, two of my sons are here, and my 2 grandsons are home with their grandmother. So I'm encouraged, but I want to thank you for your friendship and your support. Ladies, gentlemen, please join me in thanking my good friend Craig. This concludes the luncheon. We still have workshops. I believe they're going to announce where the workshops are. But please meet each other, shake hands, get to know, speak with Joe. He has a piece of property at his new company, the West Indian Company. He wants to invest. Tracy, welcome. Go meet Tracy, the managing director of Bahamas Air, or Stephen, who's with the Smurf market in the Bahamas, and see if we can do a deal. Again, thank you. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
Thank you. Fantastic.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Perspective and Vision, the Journey, a fireside chat with Mr. Craig Livingston, managing partner of Exact Capital Group, and Dr. Andy Ingram, president of NABHOOD. Thanks to Invest Turks and Caicos for sponsoring. Our next panel, which is going to be right here in the Regency Ballroom, the Caribbean Investment and Development Forum Opportunities. What are the new opportunities for investment and development in the Caribbean? And what are the factors that you need to consider for a successful deal? Our Jerry Butler, chairman of Butler Investment Group, will be the moderator of the panel. And the panelists will include Wayne Biggs, CEO of U.S. Virgin Islands Economic Development Authority, Pablo Maturana, Director of Development Latin America and Caribbean for the Hilton, Selick Garland, Investment Services Executive, Invest Turks and Caicos, and Luis Alicia, Senior Director of Franchise Sales and Development Caribbean for the Wyndham Hotels and Resorts. So please stick with us. In just 4 minutes, we intend to begin our next plenary session. Thank you for enjoying the 30th Annual NABHOOD Hotel Ownership and Investment Summit and Trade Show under the theme Hospitality Ownership, the Next Frontier.
Good afternoon. We're going to go straight into the next panel, which is the Caribbean Investment and Development Forum. Wayne, Pablo, Sally, Luis, could you just come up? We have, come around here, Luis. We have a 35-minute panel. Could you please sit down?
Ladies and gentlemen, take your seats.
We've just had lunch. We've just had lunch. Great. Yeah, bring the chairs up, please. 5 chairs, please. Great, man. You guys are all mic'd up?
Have a seat, guys. No, we need a handheld. Okay. Good. Thanks, guys.
Hi, Patrick. Nice seeing you. Otro más.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to start the next panel. I need everybody to please take your seats. As they say in Jamaica, simmer down, simmer down. All right, I'm going to count down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Next panel begins. So the next panel is